I'm Buddy Plumlee. I studied with Harold Greger. The first class I took with him was in '89, and that was color theory. And he taught me a lot of things about color theory from a historical perspective that I had never considered before. And I've taken a lot of what I learned from Harold with me, and even though that's over 30 years ago, I still apply it to what I do today. Even though my paintings don't look like his, it's pretty universal, what he taught us. I also took an art history class with him, which was very insightful from his perspective. And because he was teaching art history from the perspective of an artist who had developed his own way of talking about his work within the context of art history and contemporary art. And I would say that is probably the most important thing that I took from him in my experience, and I have with me today, is how to talk about my work, how to think about my work from a critical perspective, and within the context of art history, history in general, and then contemporary art. And talking about art is not an easy thing to do, and he really taught all of us who had the exposure to his teachings. He taught all of us that very valuable lesson. Yes. So the way I work now, I work largely in portraiture, or what you'd call narrative portraiture, where I'll place a figure, usually someone I know, within some kind of an environment, either interior or exterior, oftentimes something in an environment that's landscape oriented. And my approach it takes a long time for me to finish most of my paintings. A lot of my paintings, in fact the one that's in the show now here, I started in the mid-'90s, no, early '90s actually, and I go through periods where I let go of my attachment to that painting, to a lot of my paintings, and and I'll get them back out, and I'll reevaluate them from my newly gained perspective that is a result of more years of experience and life experiences and things that I've discovered artistically, and what's going on in the world, basically. And so when I'm in the process of thinking critically about what I'm doing and trying to be as honest as possible, that is as honest as, and it can be painful. And making art is a solitary, lonely existence. But I'll just remember Harold Greger, all of them actually. The Harold Boyd, Ron Jackson, Ray George, Ken Holder, especially Harold Greger, remembering their approach and our long conversations that we had about the process of making art when we were students, and their process, and reflecting very honestly about what you're making, and trying to avoid those hazards of imitation, and which is something very important to me, although it's really hard to avoid that, because very often what you produce ends up, you just can't help it. It's really hard to be original now. Very, very difficult to be original. So having said that, what's important to me is, or more important than that, would be authentically about myself, and a statement, an honest statement, and and to make the painting the best that I am able to make it with the skills that I have. And that's something that he taught. So I'll, you know, I'll put my paintings, I'll put them away, or I'll hang them, and over time, you know, you forget that they're even there. And then one day, you know, I'll just be sitting and I'll see something that, and I'll start thinking about that painting and think about the last time that I worked on it. And now this isn't true for all my paintings, but this would be true for the larger paintings that I put a lot of effort and time into. And after a certain amount of time, it's a lot easier to let go of the intimacy that you had previously with the painting, and that's necessary in order to arrive at a really honest evaluation of where the painting's at and how it can be improved. And so, for me, as long as I'm in possession of those paintings, I should not be afraid to do that. I should not be afraid to let go of that previous relationship that I had with those paintings. I know it sounds strange, but they are like people. You become really intimate with them, and they represent certain moments of life that you know, that are very meaningful. And so, yeah, like Harold Greger, it was obvious with his process, and especially when he did that first corn crib painting, how relevant it was to his life. So everything he did was relevant and authentic to him and his life. And so, and then back to your point about viewers, and they'll spend 15 seconds looking at your painting. So most people will never have the same, they can't have the same relationship that you've had with your work. And so they look at it completely differently. But you know, that's fine. And however they interpret it, you know, I have to accept that. But the relationship, there's two different things. So let's say somebody buys a painting and then they become really attached to it. Then they develop their own relationship with it, you know. But it's always going to be different than that of the artist.
Yeah, that's the issue.
I'm really looking forward to seeing people that I have not seen for years, whoever is able to make it, and seeing their work. So I was reading through the list, the roster of artists that are participating, and I recognized probably 25 names on that list, and then it makes me wonder, okay, what about this person? What about that person? Because it starts to triggers my memory of, you know, the people that I went to school with in the graduate program at Illinois State, and but it'll be a real pleasure and privilege to be able to reconnect with some of those who I have not seen for 30 years, you know, and yeah. You know, so I also went to the University of Iowa. That's where I got my Master of Fine Arts degree. And that program at that time was, you know, prior to that, it had been, you know, a very highly respected, talked about program, you know, in the country. And so I went there, and yes, they had great facilities, and I loved the campus, and I liked my experience, but I learned a lot more at Illinois State with those people that I had mentioned, you know. And so so coming back here is like coming back home and coming to my origins in a sense.